This is our business head Ram.
Puja. So I thought you came with Nusrat, so I was like waiting.
No,
I was actually, I was ready for her. I thought she's inside.
So,
Yeah,
can you just wait for a second? We'll take a photo and then. Sure.
So your friend is Govindas.
Yeah, I mean, I know him.
Thank you.
Naresh.
Yeah, so I happened to meet him recently.
Okay.
I don't know if Agnes mentioned. I was meeting Sanjit and.
I mean, he's a friend, but not a friend.
Okay. He was saying we were trying to start a restaurant together 4 years back.
There was one of my friends who is friends with him, and then he proposed a restaurant. I think in COVID. Let me just take this.
Sure, please.
Targets. Obviously, the team is wary about when you're trying to link something towards performance. And obviously, if it goes below performance, then they don't get the incentive, or there could be, a penalty towards it, lack of a better word. But what has really worked is the short-term gratification and a long-term gratification plan as well, that keeps people not only focused for the month, but more importantly, it's like doing the 20-mile marathon. It never starts day one. You need to build up that stamina, and then the Iron Man or the Iron Woman happens. So I think one of the learnings that we've had at Total Solutions, since we do a lot of mystery shopping, is that it's not identifying the concern area, it's also identifying the pride pointer. And that is how I think the reward and incentives has worked better in a long
term. Just something a little related to this. I'm just debating it a little bit. And moving on to, so one piece is driving compliances at stores with the store employees. But taking it the next level, which is making the area managers more effective. And the store visit is of course one of the strongest tools available to ensure the area manager does what he needs to do or she needs to do. Any experiences that you have shared? So I've done a lot of store visits with a lot of regional heads and country heads across companies, across territories, and I find a lot of common threads. I told you this the last time, is it's still not done, or last time you didn't say anything to this, it was the same last time also. So basically areas of missed reviews or areas of missed conversation, and of course there are some digital things that we do to help companies. But I'm curious, and one question that has been hounding is, and a lot of people have also placed to me from the retail community, is what all should happen in a store visit and what shouldn't happen in a store visit? What should the scope of it? Should it be, and we see like very small 10-question ones going on to very long 500-question ones also. But what is optimal to your mind? So if anyone may want to take the lead on this one, what do you think is the optimal store visit report length, time? And I wouldn't say, of course, size of store, a Choitram store is a very different size than a smaller supermarket. So the time cannot be the same. But let's say for an average 1,000 square feet store, or per 1,000 square feet, how much needs to be reviewed? What is too much and what is too little?
I think we recently deployed area manager checklist in Google, and the
Sorry, you
results
didn't
are
introduce yourself, so if you could just start with your name.
My name is Mandeep. I work for Mr. Baker Group. So we have Wooker deployed in multiple companies in India and here, and recently we started with area manager checklist. I think when an area manager goes, and we had these manual checklists before, and we have seen that area managers, they sit at the corner and they fill their checklist and do the job, and then it's done. So
Some of us would have also done that when we were
I have done it.
similar roles.
Yeah. But the things that an area manager should check when they go to the store are, in my opinion, are only 4 things. First, people. So there are some parameters that you need to check in terms of how the people are doing. Customer experience. So certain, if you have CX index and all of those, or the live customer feedback, or if anything which is happening live, for example, is it friendly, is it fast, is it accurate, all of those things in terms of customer experience. So that's second. Third, sales. So all the KPIs that are related to sales, they need to check, they need to discuss. And the fourth thing is controllables. So all the KPIs that are related to controllables, they should check. For this, I think in a store like Mr. Baker or other brands that we have, it takes at least 4 hours for an area manager to complete a proper visit by checking each and every point, discussing if it is complied with the norms. Okay, if it is not, then sometime it is a now action, sometime it is a future action. So it will take at least 4 hours. But I will not comment hard and fast on every store. But for our store, it takes 4 hours.
Anyone else wants to add to this?
So now I'm working, so it's a very different industry I'm working with. I'm working with fashion at leisure. Way far from what I'm hearing from everybody, but prior to this, I'll share my experience. I was with Gulf Marketing Group. So I'll share my experience with store visit to health and beauty. So we have Supercare Pharmacy, Arabella. So adding to his point, to Mandeep's point, I would say one more thing which we used to say area managers to observe was the visual merchandising, the product planning and the placement. Like, yes, we want sales to happen, but where is, like, what is the best sellers, what people are looking at, because that also ultimately helps to make walk-ins to the store. So that was whatever he said, that was an additional point. We'll 100% say check for the product placement, and also go and check with the store manager, interact, because they're the one who are interacting with customers. What is the customer feedback, and let's see how we can implement it. So this was another point which we will tell them.
And in terms of amount of time and average
Again,
store visit,
again, for us also it was very different. A Dubai Mall store would take much more time than a Burjuman Mall. So it really depends. And to be honest, we never focused on the time. It's like as per the person, as per the comfort of the manager, you take your own time. Again, your team size also differs and everything differs. So it really depends on the situation.
any other
So,
experiences?
yeah, so before we had, let's say, Wooker implemented, okay, what we could see in area managers is that they used to do things which were close to their heart. For example, if let's say I would have been there, I would have looked at merchandising. How are the things merchandised on the store? Because for me personally, it was very important that goods are merchandised properly in the supermarket. In fashion and all, it is still easy to navigate, but in the supermarket it's not. Then there are some people who are finicky about the cleanliness of the store. There are some people, like you said, about sales of the store. So then when it actually gets onto a system where we say that these are the points that you think, and they'll make sure that nothing is missed out. I think that was the best part of it, because otherwise people have their own preferences on how they check the stores. So I think automating it is very, very important, and it also gives you a sense of priority. Timing, yes, as we said, but I think 2 to 3 hours for a store is more than enough. Otherwise, we lose focus. I mean, we got almost 60 stores, and then covering it there once every week has to be done. So, and then we got back stores, we got chillers, we got freezers. So everything has to be checked, properly. So once you get it onto a list, and once it's ticked off properly, I think that's the best part of it. Otherwise, people will go by their personal experiences or preferences.
So you talked about digitizing,
Yeah.
automating. With that, often also comes the opportunity and a challenge of change management.
Yeah.
And I'd like to maybe invite Raja to answer this, because you would have done, Raja is with Oracle, so he would have seen this change management happening across. What are the top mistakes you see people making through that change management journey? I mean, there's a lot to be done, so I would ask you to talk about what needs to be done, because it's a crazy amount. But what are the top mistakes?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because part of my job is talking to retailers who are looking at moving away from legacy, and which means that they are looking at moving from existing processes to best practices, and also change management means changing the whole culture. They've accumulated a lot of legacy working in a certain way for the last 15, 20, 30 years in certain cases. And I think some companies do take change management very seriously. They want compliance to the T, and some completely overlook it. I think that is where we then start seeing cracks, things falling apart. when very late in the process they realize that we are moving from existing process to looking at moving to best practices, but we have not looked at how do we empower our people, train our people, ensure that the culture of the organization is changing as well. I think that is what I have seen with a lot of retailers who are moving away from who are doing a digital transformation, for example. They try to assume that an implementation partner would also look at change management, which stops at training, but that is not the only thing that needs to be done as part of change management. There are many other things to be looked at as part of change management, which is all completely ignored. Which is why we also see some projects not successful, some projects failing, and some very successful. With various retailers.
So you're saying missing to plan for change management itself is the biggest mistake.
Exactly.
Kapil, you've also been privy to many such scenarios where change management was needed. So the Total Solutions Group conducts mystery audits for a lot of businesses, and of course it's digital. And audits invariably bring about opportunities for change. So what are the top mistakes you see people making through that change management journey?
So, we've seen some great success the moment you digitize, measure, monitor, and you put a plan in place, as you rightly said, that because sometimes you just jump into the pool without knowing how cold or warm it is. Normally what we do is that when we initiate any program, like recently we were using the VUCA platform, and the first thing that we did is that we said, let's do a few pilot audits. They could be looking at the back of the house, they could be looking at the front of the house. So let's first calibrate the checklist. And once you calibrate the checklist, you're taking buy-ins from various stakeholders, and everyone is looking at the pluses and the minuses and how do we modify a question. Because there's no finger pointing here. What we're doing is a fact-finding approach, not a fault-finding approach. So I think once you do a pilot and a POC, share it with all the stakeholders, take feedback from everyone, look at how you can make it better, and then you look at how to institutionalize this before you ramp up and scale it up. So I think that is where we have seen some initial pilots being done, getting the POCs in place, getting everyone's buy-in, but creating a regular, quarterly, biannual, and then annual plan, and creating a kind of a rhythm and momentum around that. So I think a little bit of planning and checking how the needle is moving in between is also important, and doing pit stops and looking at what's working and what's not.
Only at Americana, I'm aware that you've done a lot of digitizations over the years, and there are new things going digital all the time.
Yeah.
So how do you look at change management? What has worked well or what has not worked?
In the change management, what doesn't work well usually is the gap between when you're changing the management itself. So the handovers and the communication between the person who's leaving and the new person who's coming. Something will fall down, 100%.
I completely second
Yeah,
that.
all the time. So you keep looking for the data and you keep looking. So there is no connection between that. But when you make it digital and you try to put different people from different angles and different departments knows these data or this information, the things that is always falling down, you will always having someone who's been there. Okay, so you will have a proper handover. The good thing when you do change management is we call it usually the honeymoon. So when you have a new manager or you have a new director or whatever, they come for the 3-6 months full of energy and they want to change the world, and the wall is pink. Okay, so this is, you see difference, you see movements when you do change management, and then normal the arrow goes down and it becomes like the same cycle that you had with the change management before.
I think also resistance to change itself is a big problem in change management, and adoption of the best practices that are being recommended. A lot of times the existing teams are comfortable in what they're doing, and they don't want to adapt to the best practices or the processes that are being recommended, and that is where also a lot of change management fails, where there's a lot of resistance within the teams.
Mr. Hakim, anything you'd like to
Yeah, just to add on what you're saying, that
I think the best way is just to believe in people. Instead of changing the management or getting new one, stay for a honeymoon for 2 or 3 months and then get down again. So invest in the current people first and then give them clear KPIs and they will deliver. That's it.
Anyone else wants to add any personal experiences here on change management?
Yeah, I thought to share one.
I'm
one
sorry
thought.
for interruption. We have Miss Lakshmi. She
Sorry
is
for
CIO
coming
of
late.
Swiss Group.
Hi, Lakshmi.
Hello.
Yeah, so as you said that a lot of managers join and then they want to change the world. To change the world is, I think, first I have to change and then understand the world. That's what my point is.
Or maybe understand.
Yeah.
If no one else has a point, anyone has a point to add?
I'm sorry, I didn't know what the.
The current question is in change management, the top things that tend to go wrong, top mistakes that people tend to make, and what works. Please.
So a little bit about me. I am Sri Lakshmi. I come with about 19 years of industry experience, all of which has been banking. And I've recently moved into retail, which is a baking industry. So from money to food. And the reason I'm saying you this is in my new role, I am driving in a lot of change. Whether it is from technology, people, processes, policies per se. People fear to adopt change primarily because of lack of awareness and information. If you don't tell people what the change is all about, why are you bringing in the change, and how is the change going to impact their lives, whether the organizational work that they carry on, they won't embrace that change. So most of the time, a major initiatives which are driven to drive change, it can be a simple BI system, like you are moving from MicroStrategy to Power BI, or it can be a mega project like you are moving from an SAP JD Edward to a Microsoft Dynamics. You know, this project basically fail most of the time is because the agenda is not made. Probably you're only focused on having the senior people know why you're driving this change, but you're not telling the people at the ground level who are supposed to adopt these technologies of, dude, this is how your life is going to change if you embrace this. I'm not here to take away your job. I'm not here to do this technology, make you obsolete, but I'm trying to make your life easy so that your valuable time can be invested in making decisions using this technology. So I think lack of awareness and knowledge and a proper working sessions with the people on the ground is the reason most of the time the technology fails. That is the thing that I have personally experienced in my career. So right now I'm driving a light change. I'm moving from SAP, I'm moving from JD Edwards to Microsoft Dynamics. Systems that have been used since last 10-15 years. You know, it was not a small battle for me to win. I think the key attributes for me is having a clear agenda of why am I saying that I want to move, how is this going to impact people, and having the buy-in not from the top but from the bottom. That's my focus. I want the people at that level using that technology on a day in, day out to first say yes to me before I even get a financial budget approval. So that's my 2 cents on the topic. Thank you.
So if I was to make it even more granular, let's say for example, okay, I actually started my career with IT, and then I moved into supply chain. So whilst I was doing the IT implementation at the supply chain, the resistance came from all the people, you know, who used to be with the supply chain, and they used to say, how can this IT guy know more than what I do today, you know? So that is where, you know, I think somebody said that we should first change, right? This is what you said. So, I mean, sorry to say, but you know, if a banker is going to tell a baker how to bake his bread, it's not going to work, you know? So I had to then, you know, actually get my hands dirty within the warehouse, actually learn of exactly how it really works. How does even the forklift guy, you know, charges forklift in the evening or maybe in the afternoon? If you don't know that, you know, you cannot lead that change management. But yes, there is always a resistance from the people that, you know, like you said, is my job going off, or so that change management. Then sometimes it becomes a bit philosophical, like, you know, we say in India, Shri Krishna said, you know, Parivartan Sansar ka niyam, correct? So when these start sorry, you know, I'll just translate it for you. It means change is permanent.
And it's inevitable.
Inevitable. Now, it's a kind of an oxymoron. If it's a change, how can it be permanent? If it's permanent, how does it change? No, so change is permanent. Change is a constant. It has to keep on changing. We need to change. So once you get into, you know, a bit of a philosophical thing, you start telling people that you need to change because of this. There's a nice video on YouTube on the eagles. You know, I think eagles or falcons. They go and pluck their feathers every, I think, 3-4 years or something, and then they start flying even higher. So, you know, such kind of videos, then that's how you motivate people. But I agree on this point, you know, very, very clear that unless we know what these guys are doing, you'll not be able to change them. I'll give you another example, very, very small. It used to take us, I think, 2 or 3 minutes to create an SKU on a legacy system. When SAP came in, you would know, it's a huge bloody form which I don't know how many columns we need to fill just for that one SKU. But when we were telling people that these are the benefits that you're going to get after 6 months or 10 months, this is how, you know, you'll be able to see your product in these angles, is when they started understanding that why are we putting up, you know, so much of effort. If you show them that you know, if you show them that vision, that this is going to happen, this is how life is going to become easy for you, they'll change, you know, in a more, let's say, receptive way.
Anyone from this side?
I think, Lexi, just to add on, because all the experts have been spoken about. So it's myself, Sajid. I'm representing Alfardan Exchange. So recently we have implemented cluster checklist. So as everyone has been, it's been time consuming. We could reduce our TAT at the branches where we do the audit checks and everything. But the one good thing I just wanted to highlight here was the follow-ups. So if we found anything wrong or we have identified on something, so maybe we can dedicatedly we can move on to certain issues and we can assign those things. So I'm not deviating from the topic here. So the change management I do understand because everyone has told about. But the thing is that I would say, like, we should know what we are doing first and like see.
Don't match the reality. That's the sad part of an SOP. Every time you refer to an SOP, the first thing that comes up is, this like 6 months old, we haven't updated it. Give me some time, I'll update and give you. So an SOP never matches the reality. Frankly speaking, I don't think there should be any SOP per se, because if it cannot be updated in real time, again, it is a manual document we are talking about. It's not an automated. I think, you know, today if we have automated systems and everything, it's only that SOP still sits in somebody's hand to be manually created. And yeah, I think that's the saddest part of an SOP. And people never go by books, you know. SOP are referred only for a defense mechanism for somebody when they don't want to do something, you know. I know that, you know, you cannot approve this, it's 250. Okay, show me the SOP. Which document talks about it? So people use this as an instrument for defense.
When it is in your favor.
Yeah, it's not in their favor. But nobody concentrates in managing the SOPs and updating it frequently. I think unless and until you have a system generating an SOP on the, you know, how the system needs to be adopted. Example, Power BI. You know, let's take just a simple reporting tool. Will there be an SOP around it? Yes, of course. You know, access. Who should access what kind of data? You know, defining levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Which means level 3 gets a blanket, they can see every data in the system. Level 1, they get only for the role per se, you know. Having that SOPs defined and updating them frequently with regards to how is your data in your organization showing and how you are democratizing the data, that SOP for access of the system doesn't mean. Tomorrow if there is a data leak, let's say somebody has leaked the data by extracting in the system, you can't hold responsible that guy because you do not have a clear SOP which tells them what to do, what not to do. So that's my point on this. I hate SOPs personally.
I can completely understand the sentiment, but that
I was like 8 months old, but as a doctor I have a lot of experience. And as you say, getting all these SOPs in position should come less than in 2 years, because for me as of now I'm settling down and understanding what it is, because I'm coming from scratch. totally. So I'm understanding like how this works, how this works, how this works. So now yes, I'm putting everything in place and they are making sense and connecting dots now. So maybe it should come in early stages, not less than 2 years. So that's my
And if you were to look at it not in terms of years, but in terms of some other parameters like number of stores or spread.
So I would say, talking about my current company, so until last month we were completely an e-commerce store. We were not. I come from retail industry, is a different thing, but talking about ZG, it's completely an e-commerce store. Last month we did enter multi-stores. I'll say I'll answer to your first part first, that when do we think SOP should be made again? Somewhat I'm aligned with her, say 2 years. Why? My understanding says first year, run throughout the year, you have a marketing calendar, you have the calendars of the events, what are the days which sales go high, what are the important days, run through it completely, what challenges that particular brand is facing, and then you have a team as well, sit with them and then have an SOP created, say within 2 years, but SOP is important. That's my take. It should be there because you still need to have some parameters against which your team will perform. Now in terms of matrix, if you ask, I would not say that it should be like when you have a 5-store or a 10-store. In terms of stores, the numbers would come in place when we are trying to maintain consistency. So it's a brand, it should be followed across all the stores. I personally, my take would be, it does not matter, even if it is a single store, have it. You are gonna grow. You should have a vision. Today we are 1 store old, like 1 store strong. Under 5 years down the day, we're gonna be 10. So my personal take would be have SOPs, but I'll say again 2 years. First year to do it like practically face every event. Every month is different. Every event, your Black Friday would be a different. Your White Friday would be a different. Your Super Sale would be a different. Your Ramadan would be different. Have a cycle running for a year. See experience and then start building.
Personally, I feel that SOPs should happen the minute I have the product market fit and believe that I'm ready to scale. It may, in my head at least, I see it's not time, but that stage. Because I don't want to open my second store till I have the product market fit ideally, but in some cases, one may open 5 stores while still trying to crack the product market fit, depends on funding available.
True.
But Mandeep, you want
I had a similar thought actually that to answer this question, I had a question that when do you have an MOU? When you have 1 or 2 people, 1 or more than 1 people, right? Even 1 people, I have conflicts in my mind. I create an MOU. But normally, when you have 2 people in the business, there should be an SOP because SOP, plays a role of kind of MOU, memorandum of understanding. When something goes wrong, what should be done? When something is right, what should be done? So I think 2 years, I beg to differ. 2 years is too long. The moment you have the second person in the business, you need to have SOP because if you are not in the business, how you want the other person to behave in a certain situation, they need an SOP.
I second him on that because when you are starting and you know what you are doing, there should be certain guiding principles on how you are doing. It can be evolved over a period of time depending upon how you are performing, what is changing, what is working, what is not working. But there should be some kind of a guiding principle. So you should have an SOP to begin with. It can be updated, altered, changed, deleted later. But there should be some framework of guidance. So I think it should be at the inception. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, and in fact, if one looks at, we are trying to build a brand, so we'll have to plan the brand experience because the store will always be run by someone other than the founder. And the brand experience we are planning is in the head of the founder. He's the one who's visualized it. But for this team to be able to deliver it, unless I give them a documented form.
It's like a franchise document.
Right.
I think talking about SOPs, every single process in a retail operation will have an SOP, right? And of course agreeing that it's always evolving. So if you take a simple example of receiving merchandise in the store, so that one small process will have its own SOP. What time you should receive the stock. If you are receiving in a busy period, what you should do. Keep it in the back room. Do it during the off-peak hours. And how do you do the invert process. Who needs to sign off. See, every simple process, has to be documented, and there should be a process which, the store staff should be trained on, and, they should follow that. That is where, you build that sense of responsibility and, adhering to the process. As you grow, you cannot be in every store, and this is what guides the staff, and, this is how you can replicate and scale. Right, that is something that, and if you're talking of evolution, retailers traditionally have been brick and mortar retailers, and omni-channel e-commerce came in. Initially it was the warehouse was doing all the deliveries. Once you start, the store to fulfill the omni-channel orders, what is the process the store staff should follow? Once they accept the order, they should do the pick, pack, ship. Where should they keep it? And initially it was their own in-house team doing the deliveries. Now we are also talking about the delivery apps coming and doing the deliveries. So every process will have an SOP that the store staff will have to understand, learn and follow.
I'd like to add, one of the important things that we've seen when we evaluate, measure and monitor, and the moment we ask for an SOP, it sounds to be a very heavy dumbbell, in itself. It's like an encyclopedia, and if you ask someone, have you read the SOP? The answer is yes, but when did you read it last? The answer is God knows. So I think the form factor and the way that an SOP is illustrated and how is it given in bite-sized form and high visualization appeal. Like we were recently working with a facility management company. Now look at who is their persona of their employee. He's someone who's going to be cleaning the windows, cleaning the desk, mopping the floors, and the different chemicals that go for each of these surfaces. Now imagine an SOP which is heavy on text. He's never going to understand that. So I think one of the key things is that an SOP helps you how to navigate. Imagine a new employee today, he does not know how to navigate. But it's like a Google Maps or a Waze that tells you how to go, where are the reds, where are the blues, and what is the right route to take. So an SOP is definitely something that you need to have. But how is it illustrated and put across, I think is where the magic sauce comes in.
And I think I completely relate to that because we had once done a visit to stores of 25 brands, and we had talked to store managers doing what Mandeep mentioned, learn what they have to do. So we were trying to do things with them, do certain jobs with them just to understand, how they do it, because if we had to design the tool, we had to figure out their experiences. And one of the common things that people told us in their local language was, if the store managers usually, if these guys, which were referring to the store staff, if these guys were the kinds who wanted to read, they would be doing corporate jobs like yours. They wouldn't be standing here and selling in stores. So please do not give us documents. Give us videos. We'll show it to them. They'll understand what to do. Do not give us documents. And I think taking cue from that, we had subsequently helped almost every brand that was using VUCA.
Yeah, that's
Go
what
ahead and
basically we
make
are
videos for everything.
Given that when we have multiple brands that is like gelato focused, then cafes there, then restaurant based also. So suppose we're launching a new product, so we literally take a video with our team. So how to scoop, how many scoops will go, what would be the toppings would be there, there will be dry topping or wet topping, or is there any specific elements would be there. So we try to make it more on a video base, like lately from last 2 years especially we are trying to do that. And talking about SOP, I would say for each and everything, I think one of the speaker already said that, even when to deliver, we need SOP. So yeah, so there are certain things like when you open the store, what is the first thing to do? Maybe someone new joining, or maybe we have multiple stores or multiple brands. So someone is maybe working in Mama Italia, which is one of our restaurants, and she comes to Gelato di Puna, which is totally desert shop. So maybe just for the filling, she's there. So she doesn't know what to do. There's the SOP. So how to do it? What is the process? What I need to do? How to serve? So I think it should be always there, but it should be updated as well. Thank you.
So, coming forward to what Raj said about, let's say, delivering or receiving, let's say, goods, it actually came to me in a very funny way. Even when we receive goods at home from let's say an e-commerce grocer, what is the first thing that you do? Is there an SOP there at home? We don't have an SOP at home, but it's all in our minds, you know. What we need to do first is we need to pick up the chilled products and put them in the fridge. We need to pick the frozen and put it in the freezer, and the rest can wait. That's an SOP. But do we have it written? We don't have it written anywhere. It's all in our heads. Similarly, there are many SOPs, you know, that are there on the floor, but they are in the heads. Like, you know, he said, I mean, there is no SOP. I don't think anybody's going to write how many chemicals kind of types we have, and you know, give it to the guy who's going to read it. So I think there are SOPs. It is there, but maybe not documented.
Well, unfortunately, unlike the home where we are permanent,
Yeah.
the employees change.
Yeah, that's
is
very
true.
good.
So
But must
not
have done, you know, in
documented.
such a detailed format is very high.
Yeah.
That is where SAP is, you
And
know,
can I maybe
on board.
Can I maybe twist the conversation a bit?
Yeah, please.
Okay. How do you classify improvisations against SOPs? Number one, and where did SOPs go when Dubai was flooded?
Anyone wants to take that? Mr. Hakim?
I can answer the second question. Because I think that was abnormal.
Of course it was up, but then
It was abnormal. With
what do you do with SOPs?
Yeah. So again, it was learning to do Dubai government and the whole UAE, and they went into taking a decision to do projects for the rain collecting and tunnels that will be enough for the coming 100 years. So it was a learning, and if you look at the flood, it's not happening only in UAE, it's happening all around the world. In the big countries, and those big countries are older than UAE and have older SOBs. But again, it's a nature, you know. You cannot have SOB for
No, I don't think we should have an SOP for it.
for
I'm saying,
volcano.
Or when the tsunamis happened some years
what did
ago.
we do, or what you know? How does it?
The beauty is with the reaction of the
Yes.
government and the people in that
The
country.
people in the company.
Yes, there is no SOB, yes,
True.
but they crossed it, and it was like a history. And even we don't see any videos anymore in the social media, but it was a learning.
I think that is where, you know, evolving the SOPs, constantly updating the SOPs come in play, right? You know, I think we would have all forgotten, but when COVID happened, and when retailers started slowly opening the stores, and initially it was only in a few countries it was only allowed to come and do the pickups. You know, nobody was allowed to enter the stores. And retailers also started looking at how do we use the inventory that is lying, you know, in the stores. So which they had to quickly turn their existing stores into dark stores, you know, to do the deliveries or to, you know, open them up for pickups, etc. Right? So you had to have a few SOPs in place. You know, what do you do? What does the store staff do? How do you pack? And how do you ensure that, you know, it's hygienically delivered to the customers when they come for a pickup? This is how you know, upgrade your SOPs, or, you know, the SOPs get evolved.
To my mind, I think one answer to that would be that every SOP needs to have an owner, and the owner needs to know that if anything that is happening which is outside the SOP, I need to kick in, and it's my job to respond and
So somebody is
make
controlling
changes
it.
to the SOP.
Somebody is controlling it. There's a version control.
Improvise.
You know,
That's what you're saying.
updating the version, controlling the versions.
So there should be one part of the SOP should be that every SOP needs an owner, and it's a responsibility of the owner to jump to action.
Yeah, but there's difference between SOP and crisis management. What we're talking about here, you're talking about crisis
SOPs
management.
is for standard.
It's totally different. So you should have a
Standards.
crisis management from a perspective,
Right.
and then you have a normal SOP that's standard, that you're using it on your daily basis and your monthly and your yearly. But now even all companies now they are having crisis management departments after COVID and all of this.
And risk management.
And risk management also.
Yeah, so your emergency SOP is taken in
It's
your
totally
crisis
different,
management.
perspective.
Situations like this, you will
That's a
have
team
your
that
crisis
owns the
management, your emergency SOPs will take this.
I think SOP is for the running business, how we operate basically. So if something happened like unseen situation, so we should be having a business continuity plan so that like we can continue in these adverse situations.
How many of
That's what I
you
mean.
here, can you raise hands, how many of you have seen your company set up a crisis management team? Nice.
We call it as BCP. business continuity planning.
Some of our companies are constantly in right.
With that, I'm going to just open the conversation to all of you. Is there any question anyone has here which you would like to ask the rest of the forum? We are done with the first hour of the sit down. So I'm just going to leave it open for all of you. Anyone has any question that you would like someone in this group to answer? The last time we had this, there were a lot of questions around entering the Saudi market, the role of promotions. So feel free, anything that you have that's bothering you, a problem you are dealing with or you are looking for answers for, which you believe this forum can possibly answer.
I have a wish to have SOP to turn around any business. So I think that for what happening especially in Dubai, the volume of business that people enter the market and exit the market. Just a small stats. In the first quarter, there is like 5,000 stores open in F&B, and there is like 1,500 stores closed. So the transaction here is too high for people is getting into the country and getting out of the country. So I think if we have SOB for turning around the business, I think people will stay and we will have more a bigger market and more stores in the country.
I think we have already read it somewhere that F&B is a sector where many people open and many people close. I mean, it has the highest percentage.
Especially New Year. If you look at dark kitchens, hundreds are opening, and hundreds are going out.
Cloud kitchens also?
Yeah, in cloud kitchen, especially the local brands, you know, when they don't have backbone, or they don't have enough investment to continue running the business, and they have like very limited budget to spend on marketing, then you lost among the big giant brands and global brands. So what they do, they just quit.
Yeah, one of the hubs of, let's say, restaurant is Karama. You go to Karama, every week you'll see one new, every week you'll see somebody closing, every week.
But you'll still see an Arimam or a Afadil or these other ones that have survived the number of decades, and you still see a queue out there.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of 2-3 factors. If you can pick up product, obviously is great. Price, and even the service might not be top, but it's exactly.
Service.
It's predictable.
Customers' mentality also changing.
And I guess it also comes down to the high operating costs, which a lot of SMEs cannot handle. Because in terms of visas, in terms of your trade license renewal comes very quickly. So these are some things that's more. So it's not very easy for everybody to survive. Like if it's another country, probably I'm talking about the Western, where you can open a license very quickly and easily at a very less cost as well. So I guess that's what adds up to people not surviving here for a longer period and then shutting down very soon as well. So initially it might seem very lucrative, like you do your maths and then you don't realize so many licenses, so many expenses come into play, and then probably that's the reason why they can't sustain after a year. Do a year and then you realize that you're not able to do your next year.
No, also I would say building an identity in the market itself takes a lot of time, and that's where people, yes, we thought our brand is very good, we would cater, we would be there in like a year, we'll hire influencers, we'll hire these people and it would be a blast. But sometimes it doesn't happen, because if you do not have that brand name, if it doesn't become a brand name, you cannot survive. And then even if we say dark kitchens, you go to your marketplaces, you go to Kareem, your commissions are so high, where you have a price war, how do you survive? So then it goes back to the same question. If you are a brand, Americana is what Americana today. KFC, no matter. You have a deal, you don't have a deal, you have a customer. You don't go in for a price war, you have a customer. So unless and until you are not a brand, you are going to be.
I was talking to a very successful biryani brand some time ago, and I was talking to the founder, and he was like, scaling up revenues is very easy, but profitability is where the challenge is, because you increase discounts and you can acquire so much revenue, but the minute you take off the discount, it's all down.
That's a sad part. People are becoming price conscious. you have competitors sitting it, you
But
have
I think
2-3
an interesting thing
marketplaces.
Mr. Hakim has placed is, could there be an opportunity for turnaround programs? For
It's more about
such-
business planning. Like you didn't do your business planning and you didn't know your market share proper before you even start to think about it. You
Or the
saw-
GTM didn't happen.
Yeah, you know, and you see lots of like great brands that now they are doing franchise outside, like Pickles, for example. If you know Pickles, they started from UAE and now they are doing franchise in England and you know, even in Egypt. Now they are in Egypt. So it's all about how you plan it, and the people who's managing the brand, does they understand really the market or not? And they have, as you guys all said, and they have the guts to spend the money until this brand have a name.
Yes. Philly Cafe.
Philly Cafe, yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, we'll then continue the conversation over coffee. But thanks a lot for participating. And I really hope that some of these points that have been talked about may be applicable to your business too. We usually have a lot of debate in these conversations. Today we didn't have too much of the debate angle. Everyone agreed on everything. We didn't have any controversial subjects coming up, but maybe next time. So let's continue over coffee over the next hour and get to know each other a little better.